I don't know how long it will take. As far as lobbying inside General Assembly is concerned, I have been visiting General Assembly last 4 assemblies and 4 Human Rights Commissions. It is moving. It is moving. There's a talk about test case, using Burma as a test case for preventative diplomacy. As Burma is becoming a regional instability and also causing regional vying for the arms race. I don't know whether a lot of people here knew about Burma's possession of chemical weapons. And this chemical weapon supplied by the same West German firm which supplied Libya. This is a firm, I will not name it for fear of legal. This firm, I believe General Lewin has a lot of shares in it, about 20% of shares. And this is a firm that has been building arm factory in Burma. And this is a factory built on the other side of the town called Prome, which is about 200 miles north of Rangoon. And the chemical weapons are under the guise of insecticide. This factory also produces cylinders for gas cylinders, oxygen cylinders. And I believe there's a program on the computer which just changed the heads and the whole thing become a rocket. And all they have to use is mix the chemical inside. So this has been reported for the last 3 years in the CIA report to the Congress that Burma is one of the countries that possess chemical weapons. The Carter Center is also involved with Burma, and also the Harvard group is also involved with reconstruction of Burma, and I belong to that Harvard think tank group. But as far as the political concern, I'm hoping that these thugs will give in, because there's a lot of pressure. As far as in the UN, Burma is compared to a pressure cooker with a steam vent being plugged and the screw being put on. So these guys got nowhere to move. But of course, as Justice Marcus has said, they have inculcated everyone in the army to be involved in some commitment of this atrocity, so everyone is guilty. So there's no way the army is going to split.
On a more practical level of just explaining how to get your message across to Canberra, there was a national conference in Canberra where we spoke to various parliamentarians in that. And basically what they were trying to say is that they want to know what we feel, but they do not want to be abused. So if you were promoting Burma, don't say you are slack, you've done nothing, because they will probably take your letter, fold it, and throw it away. Work along the positive angle with these people. Be specific. And lay out maybe 1 to 2 or 3 points that you wish them to follow through on. Don't preach to the converted. In other words, Senator Shah has said a number of times that he's got so much material on Burma that he just can't get through it. Senator Chris Shah is obviously pro-democracy in Burma. But there are other people on committees, there's foreign affairs, there's people there. There's many people, Senator Robert Hill, there's other people who are interested, but they're not quite so pro. And I think if people really want to do something, they've got to contact these people who are either on the sidelines or are somewhere in the middle. Because in Canberra, that is where it happens. That is where decisions are made. And it's up to you to find out who's making these decisions. One good example was explained to us was on wool. And it was a simple letter by a shearer or farmer that persuaded the subcommittee to move in a direction. Whether all these lobbying panels just couldn't get anything done. It was a simple letter. And we are people here. You have the understanding. You have the commitment. And contact these people. They're not villains in Canberra. They just make politicians, sometimes it's easier, just appear that way. So get outside of them, talk to them. If you have something to say, don't go there to Canberra to speak to them or in their offices just to say hello. Politicians are one of the most busiest people I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they work 24 hours a day, it seems, sometimes with committees, and Burma is only one part of their schedule. But go see them if you have something to have them that you want to be done. These are just practical things, but things that every one of us in this room could do.
In terms of projects, and those of you who may be interested to support or look at ways in which they could channel assistance to projects, I'm representing other Australian organisations who are channeling aid to the Thai-Burma border and also to Bangladesh, and I think it's important that those of you who want to have specific information on those projects. I also travel on the Thai-Burma border, and going into Manipur, I spoke to many people there who gave me requests for assistance in things such as just emergency food, blankets for porters and civilians, escaped porters and civilians who are fleeing from Burma, as well as assistance in basic things such as communications and administrative and office support just to document human rights abuses, things like assistance with translation and materials to be able to help the people there to tell the world what's going on. So those of you who are interested in this, please contact me at OSCE.
There seems to be some advantage in addressing. Since the involvement of the Rohingyas, the Islamic component of the world has been reacting quite strongly because of their faith. So the last person who has gone into Burma was the foreign minister from Philippines, Benga Plus, who went in to have some constructive dialogue, but he came out shaking his head. I have met foreign minister from Bangladesh, and he had told me off records, this border issue will not be solved unless those thugs go. So this was off the record. He said, don't repeat it. So, no one's so this is the belief around the region. The ASEAN's taking a stronger stance now. So they will be putting some pressure. But of course, within the ASEAN, some believe that we should bring Burma into a friendly atmosphere and perhaps help Burma prosper, thereby changing. So this is also some belief in our Australian cabinet. I have spoken to Robert Hill, who also thinks that we shouldn't just be applying the cane, we should have the carrot as well. So somehow, in the last 3 or 4 years, we haven't learned how to move around the world. But of course, I have to earn my living, so I cannot really move the way I want to. NCGUB, as you know, has been only out for one year and 2 months. And they are quite deficient in how to even lobby. They are now in Europe. They were in Portugal on the 27th of May. They met with the ECs. So the ECs are fully behind. That's the European Common Markets, fully behind Burma. As somebody has said, Sweden has taken a plunge. They're quite involved. Norway is taking a plunge. They're almost recognizing NCGUB as the legal country. As far as within the African and the South American continent, we are still running around lobbying, meeting with those new countries that recently come out from the totalitarian regime, like Panama, like Bangladesh, all these countries. We have good response from them in the UN. But as far as the Asians are concerned, there's only a very slight change. Perhaps the Islamic group like Malaysia, Indonesia are taking a bit of a stronger stance now. But we need to work a lot, and somehow we don't seem to be doing good. And we need some diplomacy training and perhaps some leadership training.
Sure. Next question. Yes.
Yes, I have a question, Professor Dwyer. I don't know whether he's still here. I was at the upcoming talks about AIDS in Burma. And we've heard about the intravenous drug users and the very rapid rate. The rate of HIV infection was not, in fact, higher than we have heard tonight. But my concern really is that a person of international standing, such as Professor Dwyer, should go into Burma on his first visit. The thugs will undoubtedly be very, very charming. They have a great capacity for charm. And Professor Dwyer and his colleagues will be shown a very, very sanitised version of Burma, and that sanitisation of Rangoon is quite effective. Westerners are rarely shown the true part of Rangoon. I've been fortunate in having been able to go out of Rangoon, and I've been up to Prome and I've seen the insecticide factory. I have a great concern that Western people are going in and being shown the sanitised Burma and coming back, as Chris Schott came back in 1989 and came and addressed us all at Roselle Hospital, telling us how very efficient the stalk was, how the election would be free and fair, how things in Burma were really quite fine. It was all quite nice and fine. I was told in September 1988, when I was in Rangoon, shortly after what do they call it? They call it the disturbances. Yeah, shortly after the disturbances, I was told by the Australian Embassy, things are fine, don't worry, things are peaceful and calm. 100 yards down the street from the Australian Embassy, the blood was not dry. on the pavement. I suppose my concern is how do you strike a balance between the altruism and the necessity for education in areas such as AIDS education and the completely biased, slanted and untrue picture of Burma that is given to the experts.
This is the Lancet, volume 339, May 23rd, 1992. Burma Health and Human Rights. Talk about infant mortality rates, which I have said. What it has said inside here is there's an estimated 160,000 drug addicts in Burma. Burma is a country where you have to pay higher price for Valium and antihistamines than the white powder. Burma is the only country in the world where you have to pay higher price for Valium and antihistamines. So if you're a drug addict, the white powder is the cheapest on the market. And of course, as you know, last 3 or 4 years, the students been lying idle. There's no schools, all the colleges are closed, so they're just running around doing all sorts of things that our teenagers here does. So a lot of them are alcoholics and drug addicts. More than 44, at least half of them are said to be infected with HIV. The other thing is the military. The military has a habit of, to put it bluntly, screwing around. So everywhere you go, and if you go into hilly districts like Kachin states and Chin states, they still have a custom of long houses. I worked in Chin Hill, so I knew there's a long house which accommodate single women, and there's a hole in the floor where bachelors can go up and feel around. Whoever is felt will come down, and sort of a free sex. And if the lady gets pregnant, they regard that as a God-given child. So there will be a man in the village who will marry that lady quite ceremoniously. So of course that was taken advantage by the military who are stationed there, and that was in the late 60s when I was there as a young resident local doctor. And syphilis was very high there, very, very high. Gonorrhea was almost, if every alternate man, you just pump them with penicillin or sulfur drugs to stop the gonorrhea. So now you replace that with HIV, with the AIDS. And what I'm also worried is there's about 70,000 soldiers along the Thai-Burma border for this dry season assault attacking Manaplo. And those soldiers, they have access to 20,000 porters, which they abuse. And out of the 20,000 porters, about 5,000 are women. And of course, every night they use them for the comfort, we call it. So if you imagine that rate of sexual intercourse that goes on, and these women are decent women, some of them are pregnant, 5-6 months pregnant, and they are made to carry 8 motor shells, which are very heavy. Some of them abort on the way. And of course the prostitutes. Sometimes some of these young porters are sold off at the Thai border by this military to man those prostitute den in Thailand. Of course they are sold as AIDS-free young Burmese prostitutes. I met a 15-year-old girl, a porter in Maison. Last trip I was there. She was one of the 5 porters that ran away back into the Karen territory, and she was repeated. She was a virgin. She's never had any boyfriend, and she's never had any sexual intercourse of any sort. And repeatedly, of course, she was being a virgin, 15-year-old and quite nice-looking girl. She was chosen by the captain as his comfort. So that goes on for about nearly 5 weeks, and after that, he got bored, so he said, "It's yours now." So this is the sort of thing they do. And if these guys had a chance of infecting themselves with AIDS somewhere, can you imagine? And they will go back home, and then they will also continue with this habit that they have, as if it's a sole right above law. That every village they go through, they will do that. So, Burma will be the place where AIDS will be the biggest. It will become the AIDS city.